ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here again for another edition of Oilers Live. This is kind of a special edition. I've got as a guest from Release the Show, Mr. Kevin Campbell. You can find him on Twitter at KevSoup. And I just got it, before you got on the show, I realized where the KevSoup came from.
Super clever, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
super clever. But I used to, when I was young, I used to say, I'm Campbell Soup, good. I think something like that.
Yeah.
I think it was from a rap song, if I'm not mistaken.
I heard that all the time growing up. Soup was a nickname. People asking me my favorite soup. So I thought we were maybe we'd go on and we'd talk soup here for 20 minutes. If we get to the Kraken Oilers game, that's just a bonus here.
Hey, it is a bonus. I appreciate you joining me tonight. And normally I've got your buddy and friend, and he's unable to make it tonight. But you know what? You're probably the one leading the show, right?
Well, I had to come on here, right? Because I'm a little nervous that you and Oilers Nation, I want to make sure that you're not taking advantage of my co-host. Brett is a guy that he's newer to hockey, super passionate about the Kraken. But every time I talk to Brett, he seems to be paying off a bet, maybe to your show or listeners. I mean, this guy's out here buying Oilers gear. He's consuming maple syrup. So I just want to make sure that a show and a team that has Stanley Cup aspirations is not taking advantage of the new kid on the block here, Michael. So I just wanted to come to make sure that that's happening.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, it's because it's interesting because I've had a chance to talk to Brett a couple of times, and it was a lot of fun. And I know he's new to hockey, and I can tell he's really enjoying it. And why wouldn't you? I think you've been a hockey fan for a while, and so you understand. What was your expectation sort of pre-season? Like, were you expecting the Kraken to be about where they're at?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, I'm a hockey lifer. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area watching the Washington Capitals play, and Rod Langway and Gustafson and Kelly Miller and Peter Bondra and all those great Capitals players growing up, and then came out to the West Coast and then moved to the Pacific Northwest area. And yeah, kind of without a team up here. Right. And so it's been super exciting that Kraken have come to town. I do think that expectations, Michael, were a little bit higher than maybe they should be early on, just because of the success of the Golden Knights, right? Yeah. I mean, expansion had not hit the NHL in 17 years or something like that, going into the Golden Knights expansion. So they really got the benefit, I think, of really working with a lot of GMs that had not experienced expansion before. So you saw them. I mean, the Florida Panthers are a great example of they just were able to raid some of these teams. And they were able to go in and they were able to get picks and players. And some of those players turned into really important, valuable members of their team. So that put the Kraken at a little bit of a disadvantage because the expectations were raised, but the quality of the expansion draft was not going to be as good. Yeah. So I think we're seeing that play out a little bit. I mean, there were no deals made, right? And the Kraken grabbed some guys, and maybe we see how the season goes. Maybe they flip some of those guys at the trade deadline to get some picks back. But I really think just the Seattle area was so excited about this team coming in that there is a very long rope that this city is just excited right now. And I think people are talking about, and the Pacific's not super strong. So I think people are talking about, maybe there's a chance to make the playoffs, but that's where the ceiling ends. It really is just the energy around Climate Pledge and around this team, and the logo and the name is palpable if you're there in Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can sense that. I get a feeling from that. I've listened to you guys. I've watched some Kraken games. It's great. I think that it's awesome. I think it's good for hockey. I also think that it's about time we had another West Coast team, and it certainly helps. To have this game in Seattle, which is just a quick jaunt for the Oilers, is great, right? Like it's, we're not going to be anywhere near East Coast travel. Right? Like where they're, an hour, half hour away. But, to be a couple hour flight away is a lot better than, having to fly, across the country every time you play a game. I think
absolutely. Yeah. And playing the Oilers, honestly, it's a great measuring stick for us, right? To see kind of where we're at. I wonder, Michael, what it's like. I'm doing a very different show at Release the Show. We're an expansion team and having a good time. You're doing a show where every year it's kind of Stanley Cup or bust. So we've got a very different thing driving our shows here.
Yeah, I mean, it's, Oilers fans are longtime fans. We're suffering fans for the most part. We went through our glory years as we talk about quite often, but we went through some pretty dark years. And those of us that have remained fans, which fair few of us, are pretty diehard about it. I'd say it's been fun, although this team won't get the respect it needs or deserves until playoffs come. And with the power plays, as you guys have seen in our last game, the power play and how these guys play, that's not the kind of hockey that wins playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
So we're told. We'll see come playoff season. But there's this expectation. Even today, for instance, the Athletic released their power rankings or power standings. And the Oilers are 7th on that list.
Yeah.
And yet they're number 1 in points percentage this year. So, to me, that says people don't respect them. They don't, think they're a great team.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the Kraken because, which is why I got you here. We've got, you've got a team that, expectations were high. You came into the year, maybe they were tempered a little bit. November was kind of a funny month for you guys, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you started out with this, 5-6 game losing streak, right? Until really the middle of November, even late into November. And then, were you planning the Stanley Cup parade at the end, last week? I mean,
it's funny.
You went on the East Coast and you defeated some of the best teams in the league.
It's funny, just as a show, we're doing our show prep and we're like, do we need to talk about Coach Hack? And is it time to just talk about that seat being warm, or what's going to happen? Is the bottom falling out? We were, as a show and Release the Show, having those conversations. And then suddenly, and I think it started with that Capitals game at home. The Caps were coming off a back-to-back game. They had some injuries they were dealing with, but the Kraken needed that win. I think, it was a 6-game skid or something. It really was kind of the bottom of the barrel in the season. And they came out, and I think they showed a lot of what we've been waiting for this team to demonstrate, right? Grubauer had a great season last year. Kraken bring him in. We were all surprised that they got Grubauer because we thought they brought Drieger in to be the starter.
Yeah,
Gruby became available. I think they didn't think the Avs were going to let that happen. But suddenly in that Capitals game, right, we saw Gruby stand on his head. We saw him be that elite goaltender. And he really shut things down in the third period. We saw the team come from behind. We saw a lot of the big names show up. And I think they found something in that game that led them to go. And we've been kind of feasting on not just the Eastern Conference, but the good teams in the Eastern Conference. I mean, we mentioned Washington, Florida, someone they beat, Carolina. And I think they kind of found something, and they really kind of settled into really playing, it's kind of a cliche, right? But Kraken hockey, right? Where it's I think we never thought this team was going to be a high scoring team, though they've actually surprised us in that respect. What we thought it was going to be defense and goaltending. And that's the piece that as a show, we've been calling for them to tighten up, right? We've been calling for Gruby to make some more of those big saves, calling for the defense to tighten up a little bit. And I think things have been coming together. I will say, Michael, though, this game is happening at a bad time for the Kraken because we have just been hit by the injury bug. I mean, we're going to have 2 of our 3 top point producers. Looks like both Schwartz and Eberle are not going to be playing this game. Giordano is going to be out in COVID protocol. So kind of couldn't come at a worse time, playing a very good team. A little bit nervous about that. I know you guys have your injuries as well. Your defense is pretty banged up, but for a team that doesn't have a ton of that high-end scoring depth, we've really been, we missed those guys against Detroit, and it's really going to hurt tonight against the Oilers too.
Yeah, so you got. I thought it was a little bit funny talking to Brett. You guys call Jordan Eberle Dan.
We as a show, and we're trying to take credit for this. I mean, Eberle had a rough start to the season, and we were looking for some way to snap him out. And hockey guys are very superstitious. We're like, don't even worry about your nickname. We're just going to call you Dan, right? And Brett threw that out, and we grabbed it as a show, and started tweeting it out. And then sure enough, Eberle starts scoring, and it coincided with Dan. So we've been trying to have this be a mission for our listeners and maybe Oilers Nation until you open up your media guide and it says Dan Eberle, right? Until we get there, then our job is not done. But we as a show, Michael, it's not too much to say that we as a show turned Eberle's season around.
Yeah, well, hey,
I don't think that's overstating it, is
no,
it?
That's definitely not overstating it. And, hockey is a superstition like any sport. I mean, you got to have your superstitions and don't break a good thing, right? And I mean, you guys have some pretty big injuries. Obviously, Schwartz is Giordano back. I know he was on COVID protocol. Is he back?
I don't think he's going to play tonight. I think he's still in the COVID protocol. I've been trying to look and see. I mean, you know how it is as far as injuries are concerned in the NHL, right? You get the upper body, the lower body, guys are game time decisions. So I think they're going to be without those three guys tonight. And I think a couple other names as well, but I don't think Giordano's going to play.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't found anything reliable that says he's in or he's out.
Yeah.
Now you were talking Drieger before, and he's still out, right? And so Grubauer's kind of carried the load. I assume he's going to be starting tonight. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, they've been talking about Joey Decord is the other goalie in the mix, but I think tonight against an Oilers team, I mean, for me, really one of the keys, if the Kraken are going to win this, it's got to start with Grubauer. I think if Joey Decord's in net, it's just not going to give us that high-end goaltending. We need one of those vintage stand on your head type of outings, I think, to win tonight. So I think Gruby's going to be in net, and he's got to play very solid, I think, to give us a shot with the guys that we're missing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's no doubt. And, the Oilers, as you know, they beat Pittsburgh the other night 5-2 against Tristan Jarry, who's been outstanding lately.
Yep.
He's been standing on top of his head. And, in fact, he won some accolades for that just the week prior. He's been, he was outstanding. The Oilers found a way to get pucks past him. So we'll see. Out of the lineup tonight, who do you think, Oilers fans should be watching? Right? I mean, obviously Schwartz and Eberle are out, but you still got, Appleton, Johansson, Donskoy, right?
Wenberg's a guy that I'd like to see step up. Donato's a guy that we've seen him flash on the power play. Jared McCann is a guy that's been fantastic for the Kraken. Now, I don't know if he's going to play tonight. He's another guy that I had my eye on, just seeing if he was going to be in. He's another guy that's kind of day to day. I believe he played against Detroit, but I'd have to confirm that. But he's another guy where if Jared McCann's in, he's been a very special player for the Kraken here this season as well. So those are the guys that I really have my eye on. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough against you guys. You guys are looking for your fourth in a row, I think, here, and just tough in Edmonton. I mean, our last matchup, a 5-2 loser. And it's just really, that was, I think, the Leon Draisaitl game, right? Wasn't it? Where he had those 4 points, and it's probably fun to be able to watch. Amazing. Yeah. I'm sure it's fun to just have those guys, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, that any game going into it, you've got a shot just because of that high end offensive talent that you guys have.
Yeah. I've put a lot of thought into that. And I think there's two parts to that. I think that is partly why, the Oilers don't get any respect, is they've got Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. And if nobody else is doing anything, then everybody expects that without those two, you're not going to go anywhere. And I, my counter to that is always, if you take out the best players from any team, really, I mean, how will they perform, right? And right now, the Oilers are a hurting unit on defense, as you mentioned. I mean, this is about the right time. It's too bad for Seattle that Eberle and Schwartz are out, but if you're going to go against an Oilers team like now, this is probably a good shot to outscore them. I'm not sure that's going to happen with the team that you've got in place, but having said that, right, like there's it is a good opportunity. The third line defensive pair is really our first line pairing right now, and then the 4D behind them have I think combined less than 150 games in the NHL. And in fact, maybe less than 100 games in the NHL. Not one of them has played more than 30. So So a pretty young defense. They showed really well last game against Pittsburgh. Kind of hung in there. Everybody played sort of equal minutes, and should be it should be a good game for the Kraken to try to break through.
Yeah, we might kind of be a little even as far as some of the injuries. And maybe this is one of those games where we think it's going to be this low scoring, muck it up kind of game. And maybe the offenses get going with some injuries, as you said, on defense for you guys and then on offense for us. Maybe it is kind of one of those unexpected games. I mean, the Kraken have a couple things going for them in this game. I mean, the game's at home for the Kraken. So it's at Climate Pledge. Kraken are 5-6, looking now for their third in a row at home, actually, after a road schedule, which they split. They had 2 wins and 2 losses. So the fact this is home cooking for the Kraken might help things up a bit for them. And hopefully they can stay out of the box, right? Not give that high-powered Oilers offense a chance to put some behind Gruby. I mean, that's, I think, going to be one of the keys. And maybe it's just going to be mucking it up. I mean, that's kind of what I think. Like, I don't think that the Kraken can win a shootout tonight. I think it's got to be Gruby. It's got to be the defense. It's got to be limiting some offensive rushes by the Oilers. Try to minimize that high-end talent, stay out of the box, and hope you win kind of one of these 2-1, 3-2 type of games where it's low scoring and the Kraken can kind of find a way to squeak it out.
Yeah. I think, if you're a Kraken fan, which I'm not, then that's exactly what you'd hope for.
I mean, we can send you some merch, Michael. We've got some great stuff at Release the Show. We have our merch. Anyone can go to our Twitter and you can get this great merch. I mean, you can't beat, Michael. You got to admit it. The Kraken logo, the Kraken uniforms. What's kind of the conversation happening in Oilers Nation about just, I know it's a Pacific Division rival and you don't want to give too much shine, but come on, they've done an incredible job.
Hey, it's easier for us to like the Kraken than it is for us to like Vegas, right? I mean, when a team comes in and there's no expectation and then they kind of wallop everybody afterwards, like Vegas did their first year, they become an easy target and you kind of hate them. But the Kraken, you guys have outstanding logo, colors are different. There's everything to love about the team in my mind. And it's good. It's good for Western rivalries, right? And, I'm sure right now we don't hate the Kraken, but in a couple of years we probably will. And I'm looking forward to it. I love a good rivalry. I hate the Flames more than I hate anybody. And I like it the other way around, right? Like if, I'd love to have conversations with Flames fans and I always expect that they'll hate the Oilers as much as I hate them. And so, it's good. This year, though, I mean, this is a good year for, the Pacific rivalry between Vancouver and Seattle because you're both sitting near the bottom of the league. And so, Vancouver's, if I'm a Kraken fan, I'd get a little bit of joy knowing that I'm just doing a little bit better than Vancouver this year.
Yeah, not much, just a little bit better. It's true. It's nice to look down in the standings and see someone below you, even if I think right now we might be tied with Vancouver. Yeah. But it's nice to look down and see someone slightly below you in the Pacific because that has not always been the case this season. And I would say for Oilers Nation, like, come on down to Climate Pledge. We're playing Nirvana's Lithium after goals are scored. It's a ton of fun. After games, we're tossing salmon over the side, and the 3 stars come out. I mean, they've found a way to have a good time at these games, and it's a great atmosphere down there at Climate Pledge. If any of your listeners can make it for an Oilers Kraken game, it is a ton of fun there. They're doing a ton of things right. More minute here. Couple more minutes.
Yeah. On behalf of Brett, what's your bet for tonight? This is your chance to put Brett on the hot seat. He's not here to speak for himself, so bet whatever you want, and he'll. I'm sure he'd shake my hand and go through it.
I mean, I was wondering about this. Like, Brett's conveniently not available, right? For me to come in the game where Eberle's out and Schwartz is out and Giordano's out, and like, I could probably show up and I could play defense for them. And conveniently, Brett is not available to make it tonight. So now I've got to come on. And I mean, I can't not bet the Kraken, right? I've got to bet the way of the Kraken tonight. So let's see. Here's what I'm going to say. I mean, I find it hard to believe that we're going to limit the offensive production of the Oilers. So I'm going to go with a 3-2 Kraken win. Just a little squeaker here. 3-2 Kraken win. Maybe we get a late third period goal. Maybe it's a power play goal to take the win tonight. I got to go the way of my boys here, Michael. And let me think about what the bet is, but what are you feeling for tonight?
Yeah, I'm thinking the Oilers again with another 5-2 win. I just think, with all respect to the Kraken, but Leon and McDavid, they've shaken the lines up a little bit going into this game. It's it's a needed win for the Oilers because they're a point back from our arch rivals, of course, just south of us. So I'm going to go with a 5-2 Oilers win.
And let me ask you, Michael, what are you betting? Because I'm prepared to offer my bet here to you.
Yeah, let's see.
What's your bet going to be? Or do you want me to start? Gave you a little bit of time.
Yeah. Go for it.
Here's what I'm going to do. So on our next episode of Release the Show, and everyone out there, follow us at Release the Show on social, Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. Michael, I'll let you choose my Oiler-themed virtual background for our next show that we do. And I'll have that up the entire time. If you want it to be just Oilers Live or you want it to be a iconic Oilers player. So I'll let you pick my virtual background for the next episode we record. And are we just doing straight up here if the Oilers win? Basically, Oilers win. Oilers. Yeah, okay. So Oilers win. You choose my virtual background for our next recording. And what's it going to be on your side? If the Kraken
I think that's a great idea. I'll throw a virtual background on if the Kraken win, and happily put whatever chosen background you want.
Okay. I mean, I feel like straight up, I should be getting like your next 3 shows or something like that, given where, but I tell you, play straight up on this, Michael.
You get the next show plus the next time I have one of your guys on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll take it.
I'll give you 2-1 on that.
I'll take it. I think that sounds good.
Hey, Kevin,
can I share something kind of near and dear to us as a show right now, Michael? If I can share this with your listeners. So we've got a sponsor, Simply Seattle, and they're doing some pretty incredible things right now. I just want to talk to your listeners about it. So visit simplyseattle.com. They've got great P&W apparel, some Seattle sports gear, though I know your listeners might not be as interested in that, but I think something your listeners might be interested in is we're supporting their online charity right now. So I'm asking everybody from Oilers Live, see if you can support this great cause. So $25 gets you a sweatshirt, and they've got some great sweatshirts that they're offering right now. So $25 gets you a sweatshirt, but that purchase gives $5 back to Food Lifeline, and it provides 25 meals to the hungry in the Western Washington area. And so go to simplyseattle.com. You can see right up at the top, you can kind of see that banner. And again, $25 sweatshirt gives you $5 back to Food Lifeline, 25 meals to the hungry. And if you're on the site looking around a little bit, you can use the promo code BLEAV10. That's Believe 10. Get you 10% off merchandise. So just asking Oilers Live, if you can out there, go support this great cause. It's one that's near and dear to us at Release the Show.
Yeah, I will. I'll do that for myself, and I'll repeat it again. This is Kevin Campbell. He's from Release the Show. Thanks for joining us. You can find him on Twitter at KevSoup. You have yourself a great night, Kevin, and thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Michael, and thank you, Oilers Nation. And it's going to be fun. We'll see who wins the virtual background off right here, depending on how this game turns out. But
you bet.
I think it's going to be a good one. I'll be watching. Michael and all your listeners, thanks for having us, and thanks for having Release the Show on here on a regular basis.
You bet. Have a great night.
Take care.
And that was Kevin Campbell with Release the Show. Little pregame, little bet. I like having those guys on. A couple new guys, a new team, obviously, to the league. So it's great to have Kevin on, and usually have Brett DeVerne on. A couple of great guys. You can find them on Twitter at Release the Show. So we're going to go a couple more minutes, just talk about tonight's game versus the Kraken. I've got Mr. Mike Dursa, Mike Megathread Dursa from Straight Off the Pipe. As soon as he gets his video and audio set up, we'll get him online and get going there. And we'll just talk a little pregame as we go into tonight's matchup. The Oilers down 1 point in the standings versus next to Calgary, but higher points percentage, as we keep saying. So here he is, Mr. Mike Dursa. How you doing, Mike?
Well, I'm not doing too bad. Looking forward to a hockey game here in about half an hour. I think we get off to a good start and get another win.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, this is the team we want to face right now when you're down some quality defenders. Although good news is, heard today, Darnell Nurse might be in the lineup starting Sunday.
Yeah, he was letting some shots go yesterday, and looked like the fingers are all working. And yeah, I think we've done well with him out of the lineup, but he'll be welcome back in with open arms.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And we could use those minutes. When I looked at the minute count versus Pittsburgh, I thought that it was a little bit more for Barry and Russell, but reality is Bouchard and Legason weren't that far behind, and it was pretty evenly distributed time on ice for all three defensive pairings, with Niemelainen, not surprisingly, getting the least share of the minutes. But I thought he played well. Like, I mean, as everyone will always say, is if you don't hear too much from a guy, then during a game it means he didn't make many mistakes. So I thought he was good. Yeah. How about you? What's your thought on the D? I mean, I would say Koskinen was a big help in that game. But thoughts on the D and what do Oilers need to do different tonight?
I've liked what I've seen out of Philip Broberg. I think that kid has a future in this league for sure. Barry and Russell as a pairing is a little bit of a tall glass of frightening, but Mikko picked a good time to play some of his best hockey of the season. Not only against our last game there, but also against Vegas. I thought.
Oh yeah, his game against Vegas was exactly what you want out of a goalie. Just make the saves early on to get you enough time to get your legs rolling, and that's exactly what he did. I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah, no. I mean, we didn't waste any of our opportunities against the Penguins, but he sure held us in there to give us some time to get going.
So your thoughts, though, it looks like Skinner's getting a start tonight.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that? Would you go back to Mikko given the defensive situation, or are you cool with Skinner going in?
No, I don't think I think this whole Smith thing is going to carry on here for a little while. And
I heard Gregor was saying ankle.
Yeah. Which kind of aligns with what we heard about possible surgery, I guess. But I still have my suspicions that it wasn't an area a little higher than the ankle.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, he's already been out a lot longer than expected, and he's. This is not. I don't know that anybody that's overly surprised by this, right? Like, this was the expectation when you had Smith in there, is that if he succumbed to injury, it might be long term, and let's be real. As you get older, you just don't recover quite as fast. Like this Darnell Nurse thing, right? He's in and then he's out and then he's back in pretty quick. What's your thoughts on the lineup tonight? Tippett changing things up a little bit, moving Yamamoto up to the top line. By the way, I picked him up in the fantasy hockey today just for an overnighter. And then Puljujarvi moving up, putting back really Foegele and Cassian back onto that third line with McLeod. Your thoughts on that?
Well, the people that thought the sky was falling when Jesse went to the third line can come off the ledge a little bit. I think he'll do just fine out there with Leon, and the two of them together are going to be hard to knock off the puck. And Yamamoto, I mean, he got put up with Connor, and I think it was his second shift up there, and he lit the lamp. I think half of the building tonight in Seattle is going to be Yamamoto's family and friends.
Oh, yeah.
So I think he'll have a good showing. I'm expecting a good game out of him. He'll be jacked up for sure.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's pretty exciting for him to get up there and play in that line for a little bit. And I've always, I've been a fan of Yamamoto even when he goes through a little bit of a slump. I love the way he plays. He's always hard on the puck, and I just can't believe for a guy that's 4 foot whatever, that he gets the puck as often as he does. I didn't think the sky was falling when Puljujarvi was down on the third line. In fact, I thought it was really great to see the leadership that he provided that line, and the fact that he actually led that line when he was there. Now, the thing is, you got a guy that we know can score. We know needs a little bit to get back on the horse, and he scored one the other night. And look, I think that it's good and it's bad to have him on the third line. The good part of it is, if anybody can lead a third line, it's Puljujarvi, right? Like he's a strong player. I think he's sort of proving himself night after night that he's a capable player and can play in this league. Not like that, all the commentary about him when he was overseas, that he'd never score those goals in the NHL, right? Or that kind of his kind of play wouldn't. And he's changed his play a little bit. But we haven't really seen him much with RNH and Draisaitl. I'm really kind of curious how that one works out, right? Like, the nice thing about Yamamoto was he was always going and grabbing the puck for Dry and Nuge, right?
I think it's going to be a similar scenario here. I mean, he's a big guy that's good on the forecheck and plays a pretty responsible game. A little bit bigger dog in the fight than Yamamoto, but I guess kind of almost the same sort of game. Like, he goes into the corners, he digs pucks out, plays responsible in his own end, and probably has a little bit more of a harder shot and probably a little bit more accurate than Yamamoto. I think Yamamoto does most of his goal scoring 4 feet away from the net. Puljujarvi has a little bit of that, but can shoot the puck, from the circles or a little bit beyond it and beat a goalie. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, we all know that Draisaitl is probably one of the best passers for sure in the league right now, and maybe in NHL history. So yeah, if he has his head up and he's ready for that shot to go off, get it away, put it on net, and it'll be in the back of the net. Yeah.
I think I expect big things from Draisaitl tonight. Quickly before we end, go get ready, grab yourself some beers, do whatever, and get ready. What's your thoughts? The Athletic came out with their power rankings today. They got the Oilers sitting in 7th in their power rankings. Your thought on that?
Yeah, it seems like everybody's waiting for the shoe to drop and looking at ways to discredit what these guys are doing. But on a night in, night out basis, overcoming adversity and haven't lost 2 games in a row, all season. I'll knock on the wood. And the sign of a championship caliber team is a team that doesn't lose 2 games in a row very often in a season. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah, it's unreal. I've found in the past 3-4 years, this team, it doesn't matter what they do, like stats wise or whatever. It's always the least, or they it seems everybody tries to overlook them, right? Like Leon Draisaitl has to be the least talked about league leader of all time. He was the least talked about 50 goal scorer that I'd ever seen. Koskinen, even inside of Edmonton, has got to be the least talked about 12-2 goalie, right? Like 12-2. I mean, you know what? I don't even love the guy, but 12-2, you gotta take your hat off for that. That's pretty decent. The only thing people like to talk about is Connor McDavid, obviously. But then the other thing, we talk about last game, like getting it done with no better than third liners on your defensive pair. In fact, you've got 4 guys that just played AHL season prior. Well, Bouchard obviously sat in the bubble, but he didn't play NHL games last year. That's it's unreal, and to not have anybody. I mean, Pittsburgh went into Calgary the night before, and took them all the way to the finish line, right? They didn't even get to midway through the third with the Oilers before the wheels came off, and they had not Kristen, they had Yari in net, who's outstanding, and of course, was looking to play a big game in the old building, right? And so, look, I think this team continues to not get enough respect. I'm not sure if I'm all right with it or if I'm just pissed off, but I did have to laugh. I was listening to Stauffer today. He brought that up, and Friedman was not going to have anything of it. He's like, am I listening to an Oilers grievances show tonight today? And he seemed disinterested in going down that path.
Yeah, I caught that with Elliot and Bob today too. I got a kick out of that. And you know what? It's going to make me laugh. This team could and then end up winning, the President's Trophy and going into the playoffs as if they were, the 8th seed Oilers of 06 all over again, and everybody underestimates them. I'm perfectly okay with that. Everybody else in the world can sleep on this team. They can not enjoy them. They can call them bad. They can wait for, the wheels on the bus to fall off, and I'm just here enjoying the ride. Yeah,
and we have to. I don't know why it bothers me so much. It just does, that the team doesn't get any respect. And in fairness, I'm not even sure the team gets any respect inside of Edmonton either, right? Like, there's a lot of Oilers fans that would, anytime I post something nice about the Oilers, are quick to jump on me and say, some really crappy things. So, we'll see. I mean, it's just like you said, they could win the President's Trophy. They're on pace to win the President's Trophy, and they'd still be considered underdogs this year. And it's remarkable. I hope they underdog it all the way to the finals, as we all do. But I guess the key to this too, and what really bothers me is everybody keeps talking about playoff success. Well, the other teams that they're talking about don't have any playoff success either, right? Like, none of them have. The Oilers have more first round wins than all those teams, right? And I don't need to name who they are. Calgary, Toronto. I just don't get it. But this is the nature of it. I think there's still some anger that the Oilers had so many first overalls and haven't gone that far in the playoffs yet. I get that. I guess probably I'd be a little bit pissed off too, but we've got Connor McDavid. They don't. We've got Leon Draisaitl. They don't. And he wasn't even first overall. He's just a big surprise.
Isn't Mikko Koskinen the Rodney Dangerfield of the NHL?
Oh, man. Koskinen. Holy crap. Yeah. Well, he's the Rodney Dangerfield of Edmonton too. And I mean, hey, good on him, right? Like, he's done what he's had to do. We said early on this season that the Oilers were going to need to outscore every opponent as they went. So I'm not sure what the expectation is that, they're doing exactly what this team was meant to do. Whether it's playoff hockey remains to be seen, but for the rest of the league, it's the same damn thing, right? Like, we don't do power rankings based on how they're going to do in the playoffs. And nobody's, other than betting on Tampa Bay, nobody's really sure who's going to win in the playoffs. Every year it seems to be somebody different catches hold, and I just don't. Anyway, this could be the Michael goes off on the No Respect show every episode. You know what? I'm done talking about it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. If you hear about it. All right. We're gonna call it a night. Your thoughts on tonight? What are the Oilers gonna do?
Well, Michael Scher on Twitter always runs a contest for every Oilers game. He's a pretty fabulous human being, and on his post there, I said we're gonna win 4-2, and I think I said Draisaitl is going to get the first goal, and I might have changed it to Yamamoto, knowing that his whole family is going to be there. I can't remember, but yeah, I think we get a win tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just told Kevin Campbell from Release the Show, I'm guessing 5-2 Oilers tonight. I expect something good. I think something good's going to come out of these lines tonight, and I think Seattle's the team. They're missing Eberle and Schwartz tonight, and I don't know if Gio's in. I don't think he is, but he was on COVID protocol. And so, there's lots going the Oilers' way other than the defensive pairings. Yeah. You guys, you and Dash are back online Sunday night post-game?
Yes, sir.
And you've got a guest. Who do you got?
Well, Surveyor Brett Lachansky is supposed to be joining us, and you are welcome as well if you're not too busy.
Yeah, I haven't decided yet if I want to be a part of that or not. But every time I'm on a stream with Brett Luchansky, I say something nice about refs, and I never live it down. So I might have to put a stop to that.
Or you can say something and I'll record it where you're with the refs. You have that in your arsenal to combat them.
All right. Well, you know my shtick. Everybody gets a chance to say their last word. I'm going to let you go. Say your last word. You say goodnight, and I'm going to throw on the end screen. There you go. Last word, Mike.
All righty, everybody. Here's the start of 2 wins for the Oilers this weekend, and running the table this week, as I said last Sunday on Straight Off the Pipe with Dash and myself. And thank you, Michael, for having us on your network and having me here tonight. And go Oilers, go. Good night.
Oilers Live